Okay, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and I have a surprising conclusion I reached after watching the movie Labyrinth a couple weeks ago. Labyrinth has a lot in common with both Hellraiser and its sequel, Hellraiser 2, Hellbound. Like, I originally wrote a blog post called Labyrinth is Hellraiser for Kids. So before I get into why this is the case, just I'm going to let you know, spoilers for all three movies. So, here we go. Both franchises have significant drama between stepmothers and stepdaughters. So in Hellraiser, the protagonist Kirsty Cotton clearly does not get along with her stepmother Julia. It's more kind of subtle and snipey at first. Once supernatural forces get involved, it escalates into outright violence, like attempted murder. In the second film, once Julia has become really corrupted, she explicitly calls herself the wicked stepmother and the evil queen, and mocks Kirsty as Snow White. Meanwhile, in Labyrinth, the protagonist Sarah is openly disrespectful to her stepmother Irene, and Irene really doesn't know how to deal with this. She knows Sarah is really into fantasy, so she complains to Sarah's father that Sarah treats her as a wicked stepmother. And at the beginning of Labyrinth, we first meet Irene. I got some serious Julia vibes. They're both dressed formally, since Irene and Sarah's father are going on a date, and Julia seems like an ice queen in general. And they both even have similar haircuts. And although there's much more open hostility between Sarah and Irene than between Kirsty and Julia, Sarah is significantly younger than Kirsty and significantly less mature. So perhaps Julia and Kirsty similarly didn't get along when Kirsty was younger, although if that were the case, I doubt Kirsty's father Larry would be foolish enough to think that Kirsty as an adult would want to live with them in their new town or ask her to help him figure out why Julia is acting strangely. Then back into Labyrinth, when Sarah becomes frustrated by her half-brother Toby crying, she wishes the Goblin King would take him, quote, far away from me. The crying stops abruptly, dun 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 dun. And when Sarah goes to investigate, you see the goblins moving in the walls, moving under the mattresses, etc. And that gave me some major Hellraiser vibes. Since in the second film, when Kirsty goes into the realm of the Cenobites, and she sees her creepy Uncle Frank in hell, and his personal hell involves sensual women moaning under bed sheets that when he pulls them off, they disappear. And furthermore, when the box is solved, doorways open in the walls. So that I got some serious vibes off that in the scene when Sarah accidentally summons a Goblin King. And speaking of accidental summonings, Kirsty in Hellraiser, she summons the Cenobites totally by accident. Like, she didn't know what the box does. She just knew it was something very important to Frank. And it was something she kind of took away from him when he attacked her. And then they put her in a hospital, and she started tinkering with it. And she opens a doorway to hell. And Sarah in Labyrinth didn't think what she was going to do would work. She just gets frustrated. Toby won't stop crying, so just yells, Goblin King, take him away from me. And lo and behold, she does. No, he does. Although, given how David Bowie dresses, it wouldn't be surprised if there was some confusion there. And although Jareth, the Goblin King, and his cronies are significantly less rough than Pinhead and the Cenobites, there are some definite similarities. So they're both dangerous creatures. They're both heavily defined by their sexuality, and they both have kind of an unhealthy interest in the young brunette female protagonist. Yeah, Pinhead, when he describes himself to Kirsty, he says that they are explorers of the furthest reaches of experience, demons to some, angels to others. Yes, I went there. And when they abduct Frank at the beginning of the first film, they subject him to, quote, pain and pleasure indivisible. TV tropes describe Cenobites as the priests of an S&M religion. In the climax of Hellraiser, Pinhead, even though he had promised to Kirsty he would take Frank back to hell instead of her, he comes up behind her and he's like, we have such sights to show you. In the second film, he allows Kirsty to wander around in his realm. He tells her, we have eternity to know your flesh. Subtle, isn't he? Now, Labyrinth, being a kid's movie, is a bit more subtle. But if you're familiar with the discussion of the movie Labyrinth online, or you've just seen it, there's a lot of talk about Jareth's bulging crotch. And when in Sarah's room, she has newspaper clippings of her mother, who's an actress, and we see her with David Bowie. So I'm hinting there's like a romantic rivalry with your own mom. And Jareth gets very, very testy at the idea of Sarah kissing Hoggle, like a dwarfish creature she kind of befriends in Labyrinth. Like he says if Sarah kisses him, he will banish him to the bog of eternal stench. So I'm thinking somebody's a bit jealous. And this culminates in Sarah getting roofied and dances with Jareth at a ball, which a scene that is really, really rapey if you watch it as an adult. And later in the film, Jareth flat out propositions Sarah. He tells her, I ask for so little. Just let me rule you and you can have anything that you want. Fear me, love me, do as I say, and I will be your slave. And this is a kid's movie. And finally, both franchises have elaborate mazes. So Sarah has to solve the labyrinth in 13 hours to rescue her brother from Jareth. And in the first film, Kirsty briefly ventures into Cenobite's realm when she solves the box. And later she and another character, Tiffany, in the second movie, spent a lot of time in there. And it's a giant maze. Less Muppets, more scary stone, but still a maze. So both movies features labyrinths. So, although rarely does one associate a children's fantasy film like Labyrinth with the very adult Hellraiser, there are actually a lot of similarities. All right, now see y'all later.